equality. Is she recording? I'm sorry. Can I start? Okay. To create an atmosphere of inclusion, equality, and accessibility through education and outreach to recognize the value of a diverse community. The meeting's called to order, and it is 5:18. This is our first call for public comment. Call for public comment. See if this is possibly public comment.
You're right over there.
And third and final call for comment. Doug, do you want me to go over the? Wait, we're gonna introduce new members. Okay. So, if you want to start, Joan.
Sure. My name is Joan Klein. I'm actually a co-founder and VP for the North Dakota Asian American Arts and Cultural Initiative. We're a nonprofit that celebrates and educates the community about Asian American culture and arts. My husband grew up here. That's how I ended up here. I moved here from Portland, Maine, and we have 2 little kiddos.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And Betsy.
I'm Betsy Czar. I'm a registered medical assistant at the Pain Treatment Center here in Bismarck. I've been doing it just for a couple minutes since 1996. I grew up here, moved away to go to school for about 10 years and then came back. Have 2 kids, and 26 and 16, and then 2 grandbabies, 4 and 2, and a husband and 2 dogs.
Then we'll have Mirabella introduce yourself.
Hello, I apologize again for the late. I am Mirabella Punga, and with a couple of people we know from the Citizen Academy. I am from a different country. I moved here 13 years ago in Lakota, North Dakota. So we landed here in North Dakota directly from Moldova, and I worked in the district court for 8 years, and now I'm working full-time for a law firm in Bismarck. And I'm also the owner of Little Odessa grocery store, the Eastern European grocery store. And I have 2 kids and my husband. We came here when my little one was 5, and now we call Bismarck home.
I just got some amazing soup from Little Odessa. Gave it to me because I love dill pickles. Gave it to me for Christmas, and it's really good.
Thank you very much. I hope to see you in the.
Katie, if you just want to quickly introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Katie Houle. I've been on the committee about a year. I have 2 kids. I married into the state as well. I'm originally from the East Coast. Professionally, I'm a social worker, so I'm predominantly focused in behavioral health, and I'm really passionate about especially children's behavioral health and youth and family services. And I work for Health and Human Services in the behavioral health division. And welcome. It's good to meet you guys.
Good to meet you.
I'm Sarjana Witzke. I am the lead operations officer for Community Options. We provide services to people with developmental disabilities. I've been in the human service field for over 20 years. And then 6 years ago, I started my own nonprofit. It's called Arts for All. We provide art opportunities at no cost. And our target populations are those that are have developmental disabilities, are low income, or at risk. Tia and I have our own podcast, the Human Relations Committee, called These Are Your Neighbors. So make sure you tune into that. But I've been in this committee. This is my 2nd term, and it's probably my favorite. I'm a part of a lot of things, so it's a lot.
I'm Tia Jorgensen. I don't even know where I'm at with my time on this committee. But I work full-time as a naturalization specialist for the National Guard. So I help our lawful permanent residents who let us go through the naturalization program. I'm doing that all of a year. I'm married, no kids. I have a niece and a nephew who are my life. And like Sarjana, I'm involved in a lot of things, and this is also my favorite thing to be a part of. And we have Olivia, who is one of our volunteers. You want to just introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Olivia. I do HR at Dakota I. I moved here in April from South Dakota. So just kind of looking to door and some organizations. So
Well, welcome everyone. Now my question. Doug, do you want to go through the role expectations or do you want me to?
So you, sure, still be president.
All right. So we're going to, I don't know if we're gonna do it immediately or if we're gonna give people a little bit of time. But I lost where I wanted to. Okay, so we have a president or a chair, and then we have vice chair. Okay, so as the chair or the president, you're elected for a term of 1 year, and it's all of us that vote on who's going to take which role. And it just states that the committee shall keep a record of its resolutions, findings, and determination, and that all records shall be public record unless otherwise provided by North Dakota law. So it's one thing to keep in mind. These are all public record. They're recorded. People can come back and watch them. And then the Bismarck Human Relations Committee may appoint such subcommittees from among the appointed members if necessary. That's really the only actual guidance for a role in this. So just to kind of give a quick rundown, we have a chair and a vice chair. And we're looking to hopefully have some subcommittees so that all of the work falls on a group of people versus like the same three that tend to show up for every event. And we understand that not everybody's going to make every event to volunteer. It's not realistic. But our hope is that there is some involvement at events that you're able to be at. We don't do like, it's not like 3 events a month. And then we have a vice chair who kind of just steps in and helps with that. But with the subcommittees, our focus is really, we're thinking someone to run like a volunteer subcommittee so that we can recruit volunteers that'll really help us with those events and getting other people involved. So it's, again, not the same couple of people that are there. And then we host a quarterly event called the Community Conversation Forum. Each event will have a theme, and then we have panelists who are kind of subject matter experts on them. I think our first one was really just like diversity, inclusion, and accessibility as a whole. And then we went into,
Accessibility.
accessibility, yes. And then we went into
Housing.
thank you. And so they're not super well attended, but it's my belief that people that show up are the people that need to be there. So hopefully we can start growing those a little bit more as we move along. The next one we waited till you guys started so that we could kind of figure a date. And that one is going to focus more on the unhoused, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information. Any questions on that part initially?
What time does these events usually occur?
Well, so the community conversation ones typically start at 6.
60.
Yep. It was brought to our attention that individuals who need transit, it doesn't work for them because of the limited availability of transit. So that's something we'll consider when we talk about our next one. And then, like I said, those are quarterly. Most of the work goes into the planning of it. And the other events kind of just pop up throughout the year. We're consistently involved in Pride in June,
Okay.
MLK in January, Juneteenth in June.
Library. families around the world.
which is usually March, April. Yep.
We tabled at Bismarck this last summer.
Bismarck.
Do you have a list of these events?
So we are going to start working on an actual kind of calendar to keep it a little bit more organized. Those are just the ones we've typically been involved in, where we are actually actively participating. There are others that we support just through, financial means. But that's kind of, you can see it, they're kind of spread out. So again, we don't expect everyone to be at everything. But the more involved, the better.
Just kind of, and I know it's written in here, but we're an advisory committee to the city. So we can give them suggestions if we have anything. So we actually report, and once we have a community conversations event, we go and report to them about how it went, any feedback that we got. And we invite, of course, all the city commissioners to all of them, and some of them do attend. So we're kind of an advisory board. And then we also have to do an annual report every year where we talk about all the different events we did the past year and share that at a city commission meeting. So generally we do that in March or April, where we go before the city commission and talk about all the things we did in the past year. And we as a board or as a committee can also look at initiatives that we support. A few years ago, there was a hate crime ordinance that they were trying to pass. And a bunch of us went and testified in regards to our stance and why we thought that that ordinance should be passed.
And then on that note, we also have a portfolio holder who is Commissioner Conley. He's unable to be here tonight. He is actively involved as our portfolio holder. I can't say that word. So he's typically at our meetings. And yeah, he's actually quite involved. We'll kind of go a little bit more in depth as we go down here. Doug, I'll hand this over to you with the election of officers. What are your thoughts for that?
Well, if anybody wants to volunteer, the president has done a great job, but president is a 1-year term, so looking for somebody to place Tia. And we could make a recommendation today, or you could wait a couple months as these new members get kind of their feet under them. And if anyone's interested, it's kind of, you guys are trying to set day that we need to have somebody in this new seat by, but we do know that he has been carrying quite a load, so I think she would want to talk to somebody at some point.
So in a ideal world for me, because I feel like jumping right into these positions, you really don't know what you're getting into. So I would recommend probably 2 meetings to kind of see and feel it out. And then like in a perfect world, April would be the latest for me to continue on. So if we see, events going, unless any of you want to jump right in, but we can hold off.
You get a lot of help from admin, so it's not like you would be in, you have help from the existing members if anyone new would like to take that on. I'm trying to pressure anybody, but you would have a lot of help also. That's a help you, I apologize.
And that's one thing too, like there's no direct communication with us or like all of that goes to Whitney with admin, and then she provides us that information. So
Like for open meeting records, Tia can't email all of us. If she has something that needs to go out, she'll email it to Whitney and Whitney will dispense it to all of us. That's how it works. I would recommend, in my opinion, to wait until March to do the election, just because almost half of our committee is new.
And I would recommend it as well, because I think it also gives us a little bit more time to maybe figure out some subcommittees, and just get a little bit more idea where we hope to go with this new committee. And then I think that will allow people to be a little bit more informed when they step up for a position.
I think there's ways to provide leadership as president and vice chair, but also ways to provide leadership within those subcommittees, right? If there's a group of us that are focusing on events and volunteer engagement, a group of us that are focusing on. So I agree. I really think that we should look to March or April for an election of officers. I guess I'd move to
Oh, yeah.
move to have the election of officers, I would say April.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Then any further discussion, any feedback from you guys? Discuss further or good with that?
No, I agree with that. We need a little more information, I guess.
Do you have is there a goal, like, responsibilities of the president, other than? Just as,
I know wing it,
okay.
so whatever, what works for me doesn't work for other people.
Sure, sure.
Kind of each.
The president, make sure these agendas are put together, maybe he'll reach out to you and ask what the agendas are, maybe for the next.
So I just, this is an extra one, I think.
And.
Can we use that thing? No, I
Just work with,
yes, I think, no, you're not. I know it does.
just the events and things that you prioritize with the different subcommittees. So you're kind of the captain, leading the ship. And smart move to wait a little bit. You guys are trying some new things with the subcommittees. So
Thank you. All in favor of waiting until April for the election of officers, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we will, consider an approval for last month's minutes.
The only thing that I saw is that Katie's last name was spelled wrong somewhere in it. Not that that's a huge deal, but
And I don't know if it's a huge deal either, but I'm guessing Jones' last name was probably spelled wrong.
In the form that, was it Whitney that had me sign was correct.
Okay.
So it was just this one that's,
that's my fault because I spelled it wrong at
Oh,
the commission. So we'll get it fixed for the next meeting.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve last month's minutes.
make a motion to approve last month's minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then just for awareness for you guys, I don't know if you notice how it gets sent out, we get the agenda, and you can just go right to all that, and the minutes are there and everything. So Whitney sends that out. Pretty much relies on us, the chair, whoever takes this, to get her the agenda in a timely manner, so.
And Whitney wants us to let her know if we're not gonna be there, correct?
Yes, so she'll send out an email, typically with the agenda. And so if you know for a fact you're not going to be able to make it, let her know as soon as you can. And things come up, right? So even if it's the day of and you're not going to be able to make it, if you could just send her an email, kind of allows us to be aware if we're going to have a quorum or not. So it's just kind of a little heads up.
I even let her know if I'm gonna make it.
No,
She knows.
yeah, and that's
What is
probably,
quorum for now?
yes. I would like to, we're gonna kind of jump around here really quick. And we're going to go down to budget. And Doug, we're starting fresh, right?
It's 25.
25?
2025. So it's the first month in there.
I was like, nope, they approved that. bond.
Yep, you're 5,000.
Okay, so we have,
You scared her. When I said it's 2,500, I'm like, that's not right. What happened?
there's a little bit of a rage right there. quickly.
I can see it.
So with our budget, that can include like swag or things that we give out at events. It involves, I think we kind of limited it to 10 typically, right, at the most, or did we not limit that? When we're asked to participate like Pride or any of these events, we finally just decided $250 is what we're going to give. So that it's consistent across the board with any organization that is asking us to be a part of it. And then, so that's kind of where we'll get into it a little bit here, but planning out the events that we hope to participate in throughout the year kind of allows us to get an idea of where we're at budget-wise, long-term. And if there's anybody who really loves budgets, or at least can read them, like, we're gonna, it would be nice if we could have, you know, maybe one or two meet with Whitney, just to kind of give us an idea. I know Jason Grunick did that at one point, and we just roughly budgeted this amount for swag, this amount for events, this amount for, so we just kind of had, it's not like we had to 100% stick to it, but it just provided a guideline for us. And I think it's gonna get a little bit more, I don't know if the word complicated, but just a little bit more in depth, because we are hoping to start providing stipends or honorariums for our panelists that we have for our community conversation forum. I don't think we decided on a dollar amount of that yet.
Be one of the hopes of the budget, right?
Yeah.
It's like thinking about the number of events, the number of panelists and moderators we use, yeah.
I think we've done honorariums once before, and it was for our 20th anniversary event. And it was dependent on who it was, but it was like,
I think there was one organization that we had that they actually had a set one
Yep.
that was required for us to.
it was one of the ones that brought the music in,
Yeah.
yes.
So if anyone is like budget savvy and wants to, we can again wait till like next month, right? We don't have to sign you up right now. But
We have the old version.
yes, it's that. Well, I have it somewhere. Oh, yeah. Cause I think it was broken into swag. But I'll make sure that we have a copy of it for everyone to look at our next meeting.
There's the old budget, like if you have leftover, does it roll?
No,
And
So
that's
you have
why,
to use.
yep, and that's why we're really hoping that we can get a pretty good idea of where we're going to be after the whole year. So we're not at the end of the year just randomly trying to spend $600. You know, we wanna. be
We don't-
fiscally responsible.
We don't condone that either.
No.
we had money left over at the end of the budget year
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
So we are fiscally responsible, so, but if there are things that we wanna put our money behind that we feel are important, we need to have discussions sooner.
We don't take money away for it not, if it's not spent, like the next year, so worry about that, please.
I'm happy to volunteer to look at it, what it is now and bring it in that version, but maybe take a stab at bringing it next time and starting to figure that out. I am a social worker, I am not an accountant, so.
I live by the mentality, we want something.
Not as good as my work.
You own a business, so I can have no.
I am learning everything I'm doing. Everything actually I know today, I learned from scratch. I feel like I restarted when I stepped in America and I completely reboot my computer. I'm learning too. I'm excited to be here. I'm more like learn here and, you know, help if I can. And Stephanie and I will do this, I will do that. Well, maybe later, but
Yeah.
at first I want to see what exactly is there.
So that kind of leads into then the community events. And so I've started it. It will be ready by February. And this is just my awareness, but the events that are happening in our community that fall under the, our umbrella. And so that even if it's not something that we as a committee are 100% supporting, it's just good for us to have awareness. So if it's something that we're like, okay, I want to attend that, it's just really good. And I think too, because we all probably have different little bubbles that we're really focused on and know different leaders or organizations. And so if we can kind of, a list of events that are happening, if you email them to Whitney, she can email them to me. But along with that, we're also going to include the events that we know that we are participating in, unless for some reason something happens. So we did not give any money to MLK this year, right?
No, they didn't need it today.
Yes. So no money for MLK. So I think our first financial obligation will be Pride that we're
Don't remember where it's right now.
aware of right now. Yep.
Well, unless you do a family's report.
Which we
No,
don't
that
have
didn't
any money.
cost, well, I guess that doesn't cost, right?
I
You're
guess,
saying Pride is Pride of Dakota, that
No,
no, the Pride event.
Capital Pride, or it used to be Capital Pride.
Isn't it?
I'm not familiar with any of the events they can put on them.
Like it's for LGBTQ is what Pride is
Okay.
about.
Okay.
It's in-
I need to get more important.
June.
I'm not aware of any. events.
One thing that was helpful for me when I was a new member was just one of your past annual reports, maybe bringing copies next time, because then you can see, all of the areas.
Whitney, is there any way you could print for the next meeting, the annual report from last year, or the last one I did? Too.
But yeah, I agree. That's.
Yeah, that was helpful.
Yeah, I can do that. It's also on our website. All of the annual reports that you guys have done are on there as well.
Thank you. But I do think that's a great idea for like our core events, just a brief description. And then if you guys are aware of something that is a consistent event in the community that you think, again, falls under our umbrella, that we could potentially support.
How is decided what falls under?
So long as it falls under that diversity, accessibility, inclusion umbrella, that's kind of where we're at. There was something
Are
that,
you aware of the multicultural event that the Dawn is organizing every 2 or 3 months? Downtown Association.
Oh,
So
Oh, yes, yes,
we
yeah,
do have
sorry.
those events going on. Refugees, immigrants, anybody
Global
new
neighbors.
established in the community.
So the global neighbors.
No, Global Neighbors, Global Neighbors provides services for the refugee, but downtowners kind
Oh.
of try to connect all the people that come, not just through
Mhm.
Global Neighbors, but in general, anybody who emigrate from different state and want to establish here. It's kind of trying to bring more people here, kind of introduce them to what activity we can have and people kind of connect. Because at those events, a lot of people that have businesses here come, and not just that, but immigrants who succeed and they made a good life here and they want to stay. People connect and they let them know, what is available, why do we like this area, or that's an event.
Is that on the downtown's website or
I think so, yes.
are you a point of contact or Dawn?
Dawn.
Okay.
I am participating always just because I am most connected with the immigration, population in Bismarck. And to my store, I know a lot of people. I try to connect them to, because then I am longer here to say where others just came and they don't know anything about. So I'm trying kind of to guide them where they can go or what they can find resources on. And I'm just participating with Dawn every time. Last time was in November. We did it at the Heritage Center, and You were there.
No, I was out of town, but the co-founder for.
And then in the
Triple
summer, we
ICU.
went on and then
I
now
was at the, on the.
next, this Friday, or no, next, I believe. We might be this Friday. It's this Friday we have at the curling club.
Oh,
So, yeah, I know Global Neighbors is bringing, they're encouraging
Yes.
all their families to
Yeah.
participate. Yeah.
Everybody's trying.
What's the restriction, since like, for example, I guess I'm in committee here, but then we have NDAACI also have events like our cultural expo. Is that conflict or?
Not that we've seen, because I'm on the board for Global Neighbors.
Okay.
And I don't think we've really seen any conflicts. So especially if it's just showing up to them,
Just promoting.
yeah, if it ever, and even if there is something where maybe it would make sense for us to contribute,
Mhm.
that's not out of, we just can't buy food essentially.
Sure, sure.
But I think if it ever felt inappropriate,
Mhm.
Doug would talk us down, so.
I think ultimately, Joan, it is our strength as a community,
Sure.
right? Like our diverse levels of involvement in the community, right? So we're gonna know about things. So feel free to bring those things to the table always. It's.
I have a couple flyers if you want to look at them.
I would actually take one because then I can have it.
So we have our big cultural expo, and then this Thursday, actually, we have a Normal Culture South Korea. Stay.
Yeah. I'll do that after the meeting here, but thank you. But so that's kind of, I think, going to allow us to, again, help with the budget, be aware as individuals who are representing, just the community that we serve, as well as give us an idea of like what events we know we're going to be at, that we need bodies at, and that, we're not, again, relying on the same 3 people to be at every event. So, yeah. And then, so I think if we could come, like when you guys come next month, if there are those consistent events that typically happen, if you either email them to Whitney prior or just bring them next month, we can kind of figure that into the budget as well. Oh goodness. We'll go up to community conversations. So we have waited just to kind of set this date. We were looking into March or beginning of April, is that correct? Okay. I want to look up WDA. And see when that is. Because we don't want to do it at basketball at that time. Okay. It looks like it's actually 28 February through 1 March is. I'm reading that right. Wrestling. May. That is May. And the big one here is basketball though. We're going. Oh no, that one is March 8th, March 6th through the 8th for the boys basketball. And the same for the girls basketball. So those are going to be dates that we want to avoid. There's a couple ways we can do this. We can all try to collectively agree on a couple dates, or we can just put it in the hands of the subcommittee and as a committee allow them to kind of go with the flow and do what they think works. We typically like them on a Tuesday or a Thursday night, correct? Or is it Monday? Just not Wednesdays. Yeah. So another thing too that would be fairly easy is just, I think the closer to the end of March, the better, given we're almost into January or February right now.
Do April.
Okay. Nope, that.
What did you say?
I'll do April rather than March.
Yes.
When is the last day of the Citizens Academy done?
We'll be at the city commission meeting on April 8th, saying congratulations.
That would,
Well,
okay. I think April would work because then we would line up April, May, June, July. We do the next one July-ish because August gets a little crazy with back to school. And then look at October so we can stay away from the holidays and that would line us up again with January. I think that's a good option. We gotta track Easter though. April. Which looks like that's gonna be first, okay. Any input? We host this at the library. It,
We typically invite a panel of 4 to 5 experts or individuals with experience in the theme, often including individuals with lived experience, and then those that tend to be leaders or champions in that theme in any capacity as well.
So generally, we pick a list of people we want to invite and then we do a backup to each person. If this person's not available, invite this person instead. And it's worked out pretty well for us. It's like, got some really good panels, like really good.
yeah, I agree. Thoughts first on the time, the 6 to 8. I don't have children. You know that it allows for people time once they get off of work. But any discussion on that? Like, would we want to move it a little earlier?
Say that I would only move it a half an hour earlier if you're
Yeah.
gonna move it earlier.
That, okay. So,
I agree, 5 is too early, up to be 5:30.
do we prefer that over? I actually like that because typically people hang out for a while afterwards. So then we would probably be able to be out of there at 8. Because I think the last time they were almost taking us out because we were hanging out for
First
so
time
long.
they work, you can.
Okay, so 5:30 to 7:30. Is there anything that you guys are tracking between 7 April and 18 April that would make it a bad day? This doesn't necessarily mean bad day for all of us, but just things happening in the community given.
BPS is closed on April 18th, so people are gonna take like
Yeah, 'cause
weekends or
that's
something, so I don't wait a 17th.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Friday, yeah.
Oh, Good Friday.
I want to do it now.
No,
Yeah, 16th will be Ash Wednesday.
maybe we should look at that week prior or the week following.
11 or
Would be on a Tuesday or Thursdays, what would you
On
normally do?
Thursday.
Tuesday city commission that week.
Yeah, we can't do it that Tuesday, but if we do it, it would be the 10th, or if we go the week after, it'd be the 22nd or 24th.
Or what if we did the first week of April, and then we could brief the city commission that following too.
I don't know how full that city commission meeting will be, because it's the Citizens Academy graduation.
Okay, this for that, so.
It would-
I don't know how it goes, I don't know. I
That
haven't
would-
graduated yet, Doug. We'll see if I make it.
Yeah, that is a question. It would, the Citizens Academy graduation is 10 minutes most, so if you want to do it that first week in April and then give.
When's the second city commission meeting that month?
The 22nd.
We could.
The 10th or 24th.
Or we could do it at the end, do it in May.
Yeah, that's true. So I would, yeah, look at the 10th or the 24th. I mean, the 8th would work too. That's a Tuesday. I wouldn't do the 22nd because it's the day after a long holiday, a long weekend. Unless there's any significant objections, I'm going to take all 3 of those days and look at it at the library. But if there's one that we're leaning towards most, please let me know.
Rather put it as early as possible. Everything with the legislative session right now.
Okay. All right, so
I mean, I'm fine right now with all of them. Can't do the 8th, that's
not the 22nd, the 24th, sorry. Because that Thursday would be. So we could look at Thursday the 10th, Thursday the 24th, and then Tuesday the 22nd. Are we okay with 24 is number 1, 22nd, 2, no, 24th first? Do you guys think it's gonna be an issue that the Tuesdays after a long holiday weekend, like, no? Okay.
24th would be, yeah, my hope.
The 24th first, and then the 22nd a second.
Yeah.
Then third, which is the 10th. So,
Can I ask a question for clarification on the theme? This is, I feel like I've heard individuals experiencing homelessness. I've heard us talking about unhoused. I've also recently heard about houseless. So I'm just wondering, like, with this committee's experience, like, what language we should be using that's going to be most inclusive and reflective of the theme itself.
because of the new term that they generally use houseless.
well, that's what I thought, but then I've heard unhoused more. So I think, just a quick reach out to, Sister Kathleen. She could provide us some guidance. Or I don't know who is at the United Way, but I do think, terminology is.
And it's always changing, right? So I just want to make sure.
So
Person-centered language.
check with Sister. Yeah, give who's your aspect. Awesome. So on that note, then we do have a subcommittee. Committee. So what we do with that is, and this is only if our committee here votes on it again this way, but as a committee, we essentially voted or just said the subcommittee is good to do what they want. Reason, but choose the date, go through the panelists, and do all of that. And
And write up the letter that goes out to the people that were asking to speak.
yep, so there'll be a letter that goes out to the panelists, a letter that goes out to organizations we would like to invite, and then just some, like a press release with, we work with Kaylin a lot on communication. Press release, social media, that type of stuff. So,
The thing that I would say that we need to do, so we compiled the list of organizations that we invite to this, but you guys probably have organizations that are on there. So I'm wondering if Whitney can set up a list of the ones that we have on there. And then we could give feedback, because I probably thought of organizations that might not be on there.
and then it gives us a great opportunity for you guys to provide feedback on any organizations that you think which should be a part of these conversations. And I'm pretty siloed in the, areas that I volunteer with, so. Organization list. Members.
And what it's worked for me in the past is I've actually reached out to people specifically that I think, aside from the email that we sent out, but if I know people that I think might be, know a lot about the topic and be interested in it, I'll specifically reach out to them. And that's when I've had people come me specifically reaching out to them. Which they may not see the email or realize what it's about or skip over it. That's why something personal is generally better too.
So it is then my responsibility. So I will schedule the first subcommittee meeting, I would say, should be within the next 2 weeks. Ideally, we can get it. I know just next week notice is a little hard, but so what I'll do is I'll just pull out a date and get it to Whitney. And then if you're able to make it and you want to be a part of that subcommittee, you're welcome to join. The only thing is we have to know ahead of time that, at least if you think you're going to make it, because if we have 4, then we have to put out a special notice because then we technically have quorum. And so it's then a public meeting. So that's kind of really the only important thing with those subcommittees.
Anytime that we have an event, they have to do that too. Basically, it just says that we have whatever on this date, no business will be discussed or whatever.
And so really, the subcommittee for that, get together a quick meeting to really lay out who we think the panelists should be, who we think the backup panelists should be, and then any additional organizations that we think we really should have there. And then I think kind of we're going with a template based off of previous letters that should be good to use. All of that is kind of set, but we can also definitely change it all. So and then again, it's Whitney who does all the reaching out. So it's not like if you're on the subcommittee that you're going to be sending the emails out. It is Whitney who does all of that. And then,
Second,
oh,
Is there anybody currently on the subcommittee? So, is there a certain number of people you would prefer to have on that, just so they know kind of
in a perfect
what you're looking
world,
for? Yeah.
3 from max, 3 from the committee, preferably more than 1. But
That includes you.
like 3 total. I'm happy to give that to someone else. You can ask Sardiana. Organization is not my biggest. So, so with that too, this kind of brings me to a question. You know, Olivia is a volunteer. If we have subcommittees and say it's 2 people from the committee, but someone from outside of the committee is really passionate about a conversation forum, can we bring in volunteers to be on that subcommittee?
we had a discussion before, yes.
Okay, but it doesn't go,
Sorry, I remember weird things. That was one of them.
I have to look at it.
Because I was gonna text Jason Grenick to see if you
Yeah.
want.
Just a little volunteer.
So it's not a part of the committee.
Everything that you're gonna do is getting it run through the board anyway, so.
Okay, yep. So that's just something to think about. This first one will really just be to kind of get an idea of who we think should be involved. And so, and it doesn't have to be like, you know, when we think of unhoused, we think of Ministry on the Margin, we think of United Way. But who else is impacted by that? So we want to kind of think a little bit bigger picture. Ideally, lived experience is great. You know, even organizations like Global Neighbors, who some of their families have trouble getting into housing. So we can kind of think outside the box, or if you know that there's any specific like marginalized communities that maybe we aren't thinking of. I'm talking a lot. So even if you guys can't make it to the forum, like subcommittee, but you have who you think maybe a great panelist would be or an organization, if you just send that to Whitney, that information will get passed along to the subcommittee. That's another question I have.
I might have to exit.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that okay?
Yes,
Anyway.
you just,
Yeah.
okay. So we'll do that. Are weekends typically a no-go for people when it comes to meeting for that stuff? or are weekends, like a Saturday, kind of okay? And I know it depends on
Yeah,
the
I
set,
have
but
a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old, so it's hard with little
Yeah,
kiddos.
6 and 2-year-olds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easier for me during weekdays.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So moving on. Just gonna say something.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Would you like anybody who's interested in this, I don't know how long you need to plan for this next community conversation, so just want to make sure that you have guys what they need to start planning, where it's not just to by next meeting. Is that too late to have the subcommittee identified, or if you want something in between the two meetings to be?
So we'll get that initial meeting scheduled within the next 2 weeks, just to start getting, because the most important thing is that the panelists. We want to really have those invites going out as soon as we can. And then, if people are interested in the subcommittee that maybe couldn't make that meeting, that really want to help plan the event, then they just let Whitney know. And I think the one subcommittee meeting before next meeting should be good, shouldn't it, to at least get the invites out. So it's really what you're trusting the subcommittee with. This first one is putting a list of panelists together. Because we usually wait and have that gone over the next meeting. 4 or 5, yep. My concern is if we wait till next meeting on that, we're short suspense there. So what I would recommend is if we have any ideas who we want involved, just send them to Whitney. That way we can compile them and discuss it. So
I know like kids, I volunteer with Young Life at South Central. There's quite a few too that are unhoused kids. So I don't know if maybe you wanna even touch into that, because they're not
Sheriff Ronis, who's the Bismarck Transition Coordinator for that. So that would be with the kids.
And I know Leslie, I forget her last name, but she's a social worker at South Central and she deals with these kids too.
is that just like a program, or is it a non?
We're a nonprofit.
Guaranteed.
I was just gonna say last one was related to housing, and we had Mark Heiner from YouthWorks to talk specifically about housing related issues, especially for transitional age youth. I'd love to have a youth specific panel at some point, but
Oh.
Yeah.
what are the experiences of young people in your community?
That is actually.
But something like that would need to be hosted with organizations that are currently working with them.
I wasn't sure about the rules about, being kids like underage, being there.
They can be in attendance for sure. I think as long as if we looked at them as a panelist, I feel like if they're a parent or guardian, gave them permission. The questions, we typically go with the same 3 questions. We just vary them based on the topic. So
I think we have to be just really intentional about, I think the population, we'd have to have the right partners in the right space and.
the right moderators.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something like what we've been doing is from one community conversation to the next, we've really been just taking some of the themes that have come up as part of those community conversations to inform what's next. But that could be something that the subcommittee just, decides, like maybe we need to plan in advance for this next year. So,
Yeah, that's for sure. Questions on the community conversations? I know it's a lot of information right away with little like.
And this is just an annual thing, right? There's not.
So this
Quarterly.
Quarterly, okay.
Was your theme always the same?
No.
Or, so what other themes do you have?
So what happens is, we provide forms like this to the people in attendance. And what it says is, how valuable was this? Please provide any insight, and then where do we go from here? So our first one was very generic in diversity, inclusion, and accessibility, and it was based on the feedback. That's where we went for the next one, and it just continues to kind of, you know, it's not that we can't plan them out ahead, but it does, I think, show the community that, you know, we are listening.
Right, right.
So, and then it also allows us to, you know, provide that to the city commission as well, so. But we are always looking for new ideas for the, stuff. Yeah. Okay, quickly, annual report I just put on here. When do you usually do that?
March, but I mean, I don't mind pushing it.
Okay, so we don't have to have it by a specific time. Okay.
No ordinance that states that.
Okay, so once you feel like it's a good time, let me know.
I'm
Like,
gonna be at the city commission meeting already in April.
Yeah, Whitney, do you know when exactly or historically when they've done their annual report?
so you'll be at the March 8th one?
I'm looking now.
It was March.
Yeah, I don't have the date of the meeting, but I know what last year's looked like.
Yeah, so and that's on the website, so if you guys read through that, it kind of gives you a little bit more.
Not that I have to do it again. I've done it 3 years in a row, so if someone else wants to take it on. But it's basically set up all the same, but if someone else takes it on, I have all the pictures, so I would just have to share the pictures. It's pretty easy to do. It takes a couple hours, 3 hours for me to do it. But it's cool to talk about all the things that we've done in the past year.
You'll just keep in touch with whoever. The humanitarian award. It was nice meeting you. Oh, do you want these back? Do you want me to just?
Oh, no, we should
Okay.
keep this.
I know we talked about moving the humanitarian award. So are you guys familiar with the humanitarian award that we give out each year? Okay. So we provide an organization, not provide, we give an organization and an individual an award annually. And how it goes about is there is an application that we put out and people submit it on behalf of others. So this last year, it was 2023 though, wasn't it? That we're kind of a little behind. It was Sanford, with their DEI program. And then Michael Olson, who's an attorney for North Dakota Protection and Advocacy. So, and that all comes from the community.
I don't know if we need to have this discussion now, but I had said something to you about it, Tia, that I think we should have a third category. It should be youth.
Yes.
We give a humanitarian year award to youth. They do that in Fargo. Their human relations committee, they do theirs through MLK is when they give theirs as MLK awards, not humanitarian of the year. But I really think that there's a youth doing amazing things in our community. And I think that we should look at doing an award for, will they be nominated in my humanitarian year award for youth?
Question on that, is there like an age requirement then, or just pretty much?
I would do age. I'm not gonna do like a 7.
Right.
I guess a
Well,
7.
I mean, I would thinking like 6 to 17.
I would just say under the age of 18.
Okay.
You never know, and see what we could be in.
So with that, because we're going to want to get applications out sooner this year, should we take a vote on if we want to add that? Entertain a motion. That way we can, if we vote in favor of it, we can get it implemented before we set everything
Our only cost to it is we buy a plaque for each of the members. They get presented at the city commission.
It's a great idea.
Katie made a motion.
Katie made a motion.
Oh, we need
Did I?
He said, he said.
Yes.
A little bit. It's a great idea.
I motion to add a Youth Humanitarian of the Year award in 2025 as official.
For 2024.
For 20, yes. Yes.
I'll second.
Oh, wait, any further discussion? All in favor? Say aye. All opposed?
What has to happen to, in terms of, would we just have to make changes to the announcement and application, like criteria, right?
Yeah, we're gonna do it on the website. Easy to edit.
Okay, when do we want those applications out this year?
So first of all, when do we want the award to be presented? So then we would figure out when we want. For the spring,
In the spring.
the award in the spring, or when do we want to give?
Oh, I mean, we could.
Or the summer, or
Looks like everything is gathering in the spring. If you have anything spread. So the winter wouldn't see us.
Yes.
Something going on in the winter.
needs to be late in the year again,
Oh,
because it's for 2024.
the year.
It's for the year
The year
prior.
Yeah, this year we awarded them last month, 2 months ago. And so it was very late in the year. So that's kind of what we're trying to get ahead of, so it kind of lines up a little bit more. How long, we usually leave applications open for 1 month.
Sounds right.
And I just looked, and the last time you guys gave your annual report was in April last year. It was April 9th.
So April 8th,
There you go. On April 8th. It should be there.
Everything in one day.
Yeah.
You might want to think about when you do the humanitarian, if there is a senior in high school that would be the recipient of the one, they will have a year after. See that?
It is.
It'd have to be early May that we present, because then we get close to graduation.
When's the city commission meetings in May?
Second, third, or second and fourth Tuesday of the month in Greece.
13th. So if we could present May 13th, would be ideal.
So do we want to do both then? How long does it take us to get those plaques once we decide who we pick?
The order, 'em.
Yeah, and for them to come in.
Ms. Olson. Does it take long once we order the plaques to get them back?
I think I had them in a couple weeks last time. Not even that long.
We want to plan
So do
for
we want
less.
to take application, when is our meeting in April? Do we want to select someone in March that you'd have to start in? Just around the corner unless we have a new month of March for.
If the nominations come in all of March, then we meet April 15th. That would give,
We have 4 weeks.
4 weeks to get the plaques. I think that should be good. And the worst thing that happens is that the plaques aren't here. Then we just push the presentation back.
We can give a certificate and then get them the plaque also.
So all that is, we go to the city commission meeting and present it to them.
March 1st to, end of the month.
And what helps with that thing, guys, is that you can encourage people that you know in your communities to submit nominations for.
Of course, none of us can submit them, but
Right. We can share the post.
because they put it on the city website and then we share it. Our city Facebook page and probably on the website, and then we share it. It was hard.
I'm guessing if we're gonna change the not change the criteria, but add to the criteria, we need to have that for February for us to vote on.
As I promised, meetings normally don't just have me talking all this time. There's usually discussion. Okay, so I put goals for 2025 on there. So I think what will be very helpful for those of us who have been on the committee for a while is when you guys think of what, like why you applied for this committee and why you're excited to be a part of it. Just, they don't have to be super specific in the beginning, but just some things that maybe you would like to see within the work that we do in the committee. We had specific goals at one point, didn't we?
There's so many community events that we partner with someone a year and that we hold ourselves a year was one of the big ones for last year.
So really any, you know, if you're involved in other organizations that kind of have that strategic plan or goals, any feedback, what I would like to see is at least a basic outline for our February meeting. And kind of we can go off that last one and then kind of dive into it a little bit more. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know if this is appropriate for goals in 2025 or other business, but I think it's important for us to recognize based on our mission that we're like going through a state legislative session right now, and a lot of changes federally as well. And so I'm just curious if we could have some discussion around, you know, what our role is as a committee, because there are, whether they're, you know, policies that are coming out at the state and federal level that greatly marginalize individuals that live in our community. We could even get really creative and, you know, revisit what that community conversation looks like if we want to make it a little bit more open-ended to be a safe space for people to communicate how they're doing and feeling. I don't know, but I just feel like there's a lot going on in the world right now. And I didn't know what our role was in that.
I think maybe Doug wants to kind of think that over and, because I was going to say the same thing. A lot of the communities that we serve, the people that we, you know, want to provide a voice for, support, all of that, a lot of them are going to be impacted, if not already. So really, how do we show up for them as a community? How do we just show support as individuals? Just, again, what our right and left limits are, Doug, with our role as a committee.
I'll have to talk to Jason about that.
But
Still, it's my first year, but
yeah,
really your role is to advise our commissioners and support those in the community. So finding the lines of what that is, I'll go ahead and we'll go to the next meeting.
I remember what happened last legislative session. Jason brought all of the bills that they were having an opinion on as far as the committee goes. And then they asked for our opinions as an advisory committee where we thought the city should go with that. So that's one thing that we gave input to last session.
and that's even something those of us that track current legislation and bills, even if we kind of send those to Whitney, these are the ones that we're thinking, so she doesn't have to dive into everything too.
Yeah, if there's certainly if there's certain bills that I think are impactful for this board, pass those along. We've got a huge list active for this legislative session, just budgetarily is taking up so much space for everybody right now. It might be something that we're missing, but please pass those along.
And for sure, the one that we need to look at is there's a bill that's out that basically makes any type of city that has a hate crime ordinance, they can't we follow it. So you can't do any type of hate crime bill, anything with hate crimes, basically. That's pushed with legislature. It hasn't even gone to Congress yet, or it hasn't gone. Senator House, I don't even know what side it's on, but very detrimental one for sure.
There's a couple. Even like renters, there's a bill about renters, like that falls under kind of what, that's actually a large part of our conversation with Commissioner Conley. So that's even just things like that. And last, before other business, is volunteer recruiting. So Olivia is here as someone who's interested in volunteering. I would love to know kind of what made you want to volunteer your time with this organization, and as a volunteer, maybe what would you like to see or expect? Put you on the spot.
Okay, question, I just was searching the city's page online and I found this, and I thought it would be a good nonpartisan organization to and be a part of. Other than that, not very helpful. I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine.
I just haven't seen it advertised a whole lot. I mean, I've seen different community events, but I think that my friends and people that I know would absolutely want to volunteer if they knew that this existed.
I think that might be a benefit of us having a subcommittee that's, because I agree with you. I feel like part of engaging people in the mission is having more people that are, you know, volunteering at events and things like that. So maybe that could be a part of like an events and the, how do we engage volunteers and ensuring that, you know, as you've mentioned, we've had committee members show up to a lot of those events, but there's, you know, making sure we're asking for volunteers to support that as well. And maybe also how we're engaging with those volunteers, like educating them about the committee and what our goals are, so that if they are helping to table at Pride or, you know, something like those lines, they feel well equipped to do this work with us.
Maybe think that should be a subcommittee that we talk about next month,
I think events and volunteer engagement should be together.
and then community conversations.
Yeah. From my perspective, I think with 7 members, more than 2 committees, we're
I agree.
with the goal of each committee having 3. Yeah.
Doug, on our volunteer form. Is it just a generic? I guess I haven't looked at it.
No, I just did it.
What?
I think it's just very generic information and maybe
I'm sure it is, not all of our forms are really generic and then you just identify which group you're.
Because I think too, when I look at volunteering for organizations, I like the ones that are, you know, like Global Neighbors. Interested in driving, interested in,
Can you guys see my screen that I'm sharing?
yes. So it's very,
yeah, maybe like a volunteer outreach would be good too, because I mean, I just filled out this form and then got a random email one day.
So typically what happens is people, once they sign up for the volunteer form, I add them to my email list. So then they get all of like the meeting notifications and event notifications that the committee gets.
Do you want to increase the amount of volunteers that come to the meetings?
not, you know, people don't necessarily have to come here. Of course, we welcome everyone, but more so people to, I think the more people that we get out at the actual events, also shows community support, just rather than a committee support. And then it also takes the workload off of 7 people if we can get more volunteers to be there. So instead of one person having to be at 6 events back to back. You know, we could spread it out and not expect the committee members to be at every single one. So I do think one thing that is important to consider, and maybe please disagree with me, but when we start building this list, and maybe it's not in an email, but maybe when we engage with those volunteers, because there are going to be some people who would rather work within special, like specific populations. So just kind of having an idea to like, you know, if somebody, if their values don't align with every community, like if there's ones that we know that we could rely on them more. That's,
I'm wondering if we have a subcommittee, if then when they sign up, if they can get like a welcome email or something. And then somebody from the subcommittee can call them and have a conversation with them over the phone rather than via email. A lot more personal, especially if you're gonna ask someone to volunteer.
I just think of it, because like with Global Neighbors, transportation's a big one. We're teaching people how to drive. And I found out real quick, that's not where I want to be, you know? And so I also think it gives the volunteers a little bit more structure in what is, you know, they would be doing, which is helpful.
My end too. I mean, if I'm involved in planning a event, I'm gonna make sure I come to the event.
Yeah. Okay. We are going to go around for other business. And then start with you, Susan.
Just as I said before, Tia and I host a podcast, these are your neighbors, and it's specifically for change makers in our community that we interview. So if you know anyone that you think would be good to be on our podcast, make sure you let us know. We tape it, it's not live, it's 30 minutes generally. And we're open to everyone's suggestions.
Or your downloads or,
Really high, really doing well.
We
yeah.
that's great.
Still beating history on Fish by like 400 a month, 600 a month.
Yeah, go way up there. You wanna go over 700 a month?
Okay. Betsy, any other business that you would like to bring up or questions?
No, I'm just kind of taking it all in right now, just trying to absorb it all. Thank you though.
Marabella?
Same with me, I need to talk a little more on everything. It's, but thank you. But I'm excited to take part in the events that are bring together our community. I'm here probably, you know, to have a voice for those that are not represented in this community, and I am in North Dakota for 13 years, and my road to be where I am today was very hard, very harsh at times. It's a very conservative community. North Dakota in general, as a state, is very conservative, and I learned a lot of tricks how to get to the people's heart in a way to make them a little more sensitive to other group of population that might establish here, and it's they don't have to approach us aggressively, because not all of us are, you know, bad people. We try to make this community as a home, and I really want to see more immigrants that establish here and make a home, and make this state to develop, because conservative is good, but the stagnation is not good. So it's a difference, and I think it's a very thin line between we don't want to accept anything, but then you don't move anywhere. You stuck there. And what I learned, it's always been that way. It's not a good thing. I'm not agree with, and I think that has to change at some level.
I think the more you can personalize the individuals and their story, I think it kind of helps break down those walls that people put up immediately. So, and I'm love working with the New American community, so I'm here.
Thank you. And even, through the store, when I meet the old generation of, the people that came, their grandparents came, and I'm meeting a lot of them through the business I am running with my husband. I hear a lot of stories, and they are so heartbreaking, and to hear the stories again and again, how they came here and they become a part of this community, but yet they close it. They close the door after. They don't want to let anybody. But when you start talking to them, it takes time for them to soften up and let you in the community and kind of be more curious about your culture and stuff like that. So it's a work process. It takes time. It takes patience to listen to their story, yet if you want to be listened as well.
Katie?
Oh, we're happy you're here. Thank you guys are here. And I think it's really good for us to always be reflective about that we're 7 people and we're really limited in some of our representation too as well. So that's another maybe goal of volunteer engagement is, right? How do we make sure we engage volunteers, individuals of color, and we don't have any anyone that identifies or outwardly identifies as male in our group, those types of things, right? So it's how do we just think about that is going to help. That's our perspective and our experiences are going to guide who we bring to the table. So how do we just remain intentional about that? And then the other thing I wanted to say thank you to you, Tia, for your work over the last year, and also your willingness to stay on to help us through this transition. I know that there's a lot of things that you do that not a lot of people know about. So.
Thank you. Olivia, anything you just want to address to the committee?
Thank you guys for welcoming me.
Doug, anything before So all I would like to reiterate again is this is a tough time for a lot of people. So just making sure that, we're kind of paying attention to things that are going on that could impact everybody. Being aware, especially if it's happening at the state or city level, so we can advise the city commission. Yeah, I think that's all I have. So, all for anything? Okay, we will adjourn. 6:40.
Will be in February.
Yep, and I think it's that third one a holiday, so it's a different time.
24.